Global Business Today by Charles Hill, Chapter 12, The Strategy of International Business. The opening case refers to Geely, China's first global car company. Today, Volvo cars are still engineered, designed, and tested in Gothenburg, Sweden, and they still retain their Swedish character. But they are assembled at two new plants in China and a new plant in South Carolina, all built after the acquisition. Since the acquisition, they have continued to be managed as separate companies owned by Lee's investment fund, Zhejiang Geely Holding Group. However, in February 2020, Lee announced that the companies were in talks to combine the two entities into a single integrated operation, a merger that would have a combined entity that would have been listed in Hong Kong and possibly Stockholm, but they abandoned the merger plans and instead launched a new entity to combine their powertrain operations and expand cooperation on electric vehicles to respond to the current demand on green energy. Arabay is the name of the new entity.
As managers consider expanding into international markets, they definitely need to take a look at what are the benefits of expanding into a particular foreign market, which strategies should they be pursuing in those foreign markets, and taking a look at the value of collaboration with global competitors, the benefits, the costs, and the risks of strategic alliances. And we saw in the opening case a strategic alliance between Geely and Volvo and how it worked to their advantage, to both of them. So it decreased cost of production for Volvo, and it increased sales and brand name to Geely, which has become the seventh largest automaker in China at the moment. Managers can increase the profitability of the firm by pursuing strategies that lower costs or by pursuing strategies that add value to the firm's products, which enables the firm to raise prices. Managers can increase the rate at which the firm's profits grow over time by pursuing strategies to sell more products in existing markets or by pursuing strategies to enter new markets. Figure 12.2 demonstrates value creation. The value of a product to an average consumer is V, the average price that the firm can charge a consumer for that product given competitive pressures and its ability to segment the market is P. And the average unit cost of producing that product is C. C comprises all relevant costs, including the firm's cost of capital. The firm's profit per unit sold, pi, is equal to P minus C, while the consumer surplus per unit is equal to V minus P. Another way of thinking of the consumer surplus is as value for the money. The greater the consumer surplus, the greater the value for the money the consumer gets. The firm makes a profit so long as P is greater than C, and its profit will be greater the lower C is relative to P. The difference between V and P is in part determined by the intensity of competitive pressure in the marketplace. The lower the intensity of competitive pressure, the higher the price charged relative to V. In general, the higher the firm's profit per unit sold is, the greater its profitability will be, all else being equal. Figure 12.3 plots 3 hotel firms with a global presence that cater to international travelers. Canada's Four Seasons, America's Marriott International, and China's Jinjiang International, which also owns a number of budget properties such as 7 Days Inn. Porter notes that it is important for a firm to be explicit about its choice of strategic emphasis with regard to value creation or differentiation, and low cost to configure its internal operations to support that strategic emphasis. A central tenet of the basic strategy paradigm is that to maximize its profitability, a firm must do 3 things: pick a position on the efficiency frontier that is viable in the sense that there is enough demand to support the choice. That's the number 1. Number 2, configure its internal operations such as manufacturing, marketing, logistics, information systems, human resources, and so on, so that they support that position. And 3, make sure that the firm has the right organization structure in place to execute its strategy. Remember, the strategy, operations, and organization of the firm must all be consistent with each other if it is to attain a competitive advantage and garner superior profitability. The operations of a firm can be thought of as a value chain composed of a series of distinct value creation activities, including production, marketing and sales, materials management, research and development, human resources, information systems, and the firm infrastructure. Let's consider the global strategy and foundation of AB InBev, originated in Belgium in 1366 and the United States in 1852. The company has operations in 25 countries and sales in over 100 countries. AB InBev has more than 200 brands, with some holding the status of global brands. Others are international brands, and still more brands are considered local champions. The overall perspective of AB InBev's global strategy is Dream, People, Culture, which indicates that the company aims to operate as one company with one dream and one organizational culture uniting them, despite operating worldwide in many different national cultures. The global brands of Budweiser, Corona, and Stella Artois have a strong presence worldwide and are considered leaders in the beer industry. The international brands of Beck's, Leaf, and Hoegaarden for instance, do not take this stance and instead have a more focused, multi-country approach. Meanwhile, there are local champions such as Jupiler in Belgium, Quilmes in Argentina, and Harbin in China, which have superior standing in those local markets. If a firm is going to maximize its profitability, it must pay close attention to achieving internal consistency among the various components of its architecture, and the architecture must support the strategy and operations of the firm. So very important to take a look at controls, the metrics used to measure the performance of the subunits, incentives, devices used to reward appropriate managerial behavior, processes, manner in which decisions are made and work is performed, organizational culture, norms, and value systems that are shared among the employees, and people, employees, and the strategy used to recruit, compensate, and retain those individuals. Learning objective 12.2 is to recognize how firms can increase revenue and profit by expanding globally. Expanding globally allows firms to increase their profitability and also the rate of profit growth in ways not available to purely domestic enterprise. So let's take a look at firms that operate internationally. Number one, they can expand the market for their domestic product offerings by selling their products in international markets. That could be done through exporting. Number two, realize location economies by dispersing individual value creation activities to locations around the globe where they can be performed most efficiently and effectively. For example, Volvo expanding their manufacturing operations in China and in South Carolina. Number two, realize greater cost economies from experience effects by serving an expanded global market from a central location, reducing the costs of value creation. If they are Geely and Volvo, they are distributing from China to a variety of markets, not just to the Chinese. And 4, earn a greater return by leveraging any valuable skills developed in foreign operations and transferring them to other entities within the firm's global network of operations. Volvo exported their expertise and their skills to Geely in China. Expanding the market and leveraging products and competencies is essential for growth. To increase growth, a firm can sell products or services developed at home in foreign markets. And the success depends on their core competence. So what is core competence? It refers to skills within the firm that competitors cannot easily match or imitate. These skills may exist in any of the firm's value creation activities. It could be the production, it could be marketing, it could be research and development, it could be human resources, logistics, general management, so on. Toyota, for example, has a core competence in the production of cars. They were the creators and developers of the lean manufacturing system. IKEA has a core competence in the design of stylish and affordable furniture. McDonald's has a core competence in managing fast food operations. Procter & Gamble has a core competence in developing and marketing name brand consumer products. And those are just a few of the examples. Locating a value creation activity in the optimal location for that activity can have one of 2 effects. It can lower the costs of value creation and help the firm to achieve a low-cost position, and or it can enable the firm to differentiate its product offering from those of competitors. In terms of figure 12.2 in slide 9, it can lower C and or increase V, which is in general, it supports higher pricing, both of which boost the profitability of the enterprise. Experience effects and the impact on global expansion, profitability, and profit growth. The experience curve is the systematic reduction in production costs that occur over the life of a product. A product's production costs decline by some quantity about each time output doubles. When we look at learning effects, we take a look at cost savings that come from learning by doing, and then labor productivity that increases when individuals learn the most efficient ways to perform particular tasks. And also management learns how to manage the new operation more efficiently. Learning effects tend to be more significant when a technologically complex task is repeated, because there is more that can be learned about the task. Thus, learning effects will be more significant in an assembly process involving 1,000 complex steps than in one of only 100 simple steps. Figure 12.7 illustrates this experience curve relationship between unit production costs and cumulative output, which is the relationship for cumulative output over time and not output in any one period, such as a year. 2 things explain this: learning effects and economies of scale. So the vertical axis has unit costs The horizontal axis has the cumulative output. A curve from the top left goes past a point marked B, high on unit costs and low on cumulative output, down to the right to a point marked K, high on cumulative output and low on unit costs. Economies of scale, what is it? It's reductions in unit cost achieved by producing a large volume of a product. Many of the underlying sources of experience-based cost economies are plant-based. This is true for most learning effects as well as for the economies of scale derived by spreading the fixed costs of building productive capacity over a large output, attaining an effective scale of output, and utilizing the plant more intensively. Strategic significance. Moving down experience curve allows the firm to reduce the cost of creating value and increase its profitability. Once the firm has established low-cost position, it can act as a barrier to new competitors. Valuable skills are developed first at home and then transferred to foreign operations. However, for more mature multinationals that have already established a network of subsidiary operations in foreign markets, the development of valuable skills can just as well occur in foreign subsidiaries. Managers of multinational enterprises face new challenges. First, they must have the humility to recognize that valuable skills that lead to competencies can arise anywhere within the firm's global network, not just at the corporate center. And second, they must establish an incentive system that encourages local employees to acquire new skills. In summary, it should be noted that strategies that increase profitability may also expand a firm's business and thus enable it to attain a higher rate of profit growth. While some enterprises, such as Firm A in Figure 12.8, face high pressures for cost reductions and low pressures for local responsiveness, and others, such as Firm B, face low pressures for cost reductions and high pressures for local responsiveness. Many companies are in the position of Firm C. They face high pressures for both cost reductions and local responsiveness. Dealing with these conflicting and contradictory pressures is a difficult strategic challenge, primarily because being locally responsive tends to raise cost. Choosing a strategy, we're going to start with global standardization strategy. This strategy makes most sense when there are strong pressures for cost reductions and demands for local responsiveness are minimal. Increasingly, these conditions prevail in many industrial goods industries whose products often serve universal needs. In the semiconductor industry, for example, global standards have emerged, creating enormous demands for standardized global products. Accordingly, companies such as Intel, Texas Instruments, and Motorola all pursue a global standardization strategy. Let's take a look at Unilever. The Dutch-British company with co-headquarters in London and Rotterdam is the result of the merger of a Dutch margarine producer and a British soap maker. Their portfolio of 400 brands, 14 of which are responsible for more than €1 billion in sales annually. Unilever is divided into 4 divisions: foods, refreshments, home care, and personal care. Pressures for local responsiveness might be more intense in foods and refreshments as compared to home care and personal care, whereas pressures for cost reductions could be stronger in home care as compared to some of the other divisions. Thus, the organization will need to be structured to allow the different strategies and divisions to coordinate across markets as well. Firms pursuing a localization strategy still need to be efficient and, whenever possible, to capture some scale economies from their global reach. As noted earlier, many automobile companies have found that they have to customize some of their product offerings to local market demands. For example, producing large pickup trucks for North American consumers and small fuel-efficient cars for Europeans and Japanese. Let's take a look at the international strategy. Enterprises pursuing an international strategy have followed a similar developmental pattern as they expanded into foreign markets. They tend to centralize product development functions such as research and development at home. However, they also tend to establish manufacturing and marketing functions in each major country or geographic region in which they do business. Firms that have pursued this strategy include Procter & Gamble and Microsoft. We also see this in Geely and Volvo. Volvo still designs and develops designs in their headquarters. The evolution of strategy. The Achilles heel of the international strategy is that over time, competitors inevitably emerge. And if managers do not take proactive steps to reduce their firm's cost structure, it will be rapidly outflanked by efficient global competitors. This is what happened to Xerox, and we know how they had to change their strategies. Let's take a look at the evolution of Procter & Gamble. In 1915, Procter & Gamble opened its first foreign operation in Canada. In the 1950s and 60s, P&G expanded into Western Europe, and then in the 1970s into Japan and other parts of Asia. Throughout this expansion, the company maintained all product development at its headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio, while each subsidiary took on the responsibility for manufacturing, marketing, and distributing the products. P&G shifted its strategy in the 1990s, closing several foreign locations and moving to a more regional approach to global markets. In 1999, the company implemented Organization 2005, a business unit approach whereby different units are entirely responsible for generating profits for a product group. Let's take a look at the advantages of strategic alliances. They facilitate entry into a foreign market. It allows firms to share the fixed costs and risks of developing new products or processes. They bring together complementary skills and assets that neither partner could easily develop on its own, and they can help establish technological standards for the industry that will benefit the firm. And in the case of Geely and Volvo, we saw how Geely benefited from the engineering expertise of Volvo. A good ally or partner has three characteristics. First, a good partner helps the firm achieve its strategic goals, whether they are market access, sharing the costs and risks of product development, or gaining access to critical core competencies. The partner must have capabilities that the firm lacks and that it values. Second, a good partner shares the firm's vision for the purpose of the alliance. If two firms approach an alliance with radically different agendas, the chances are great that the relationship will not be harmonious, will not flourish, and will end in divorce. Third, a good partner is unlikely to try to opportunistically exploit the alliance for its own ends. That is, to expropriate the firm's technological know-how while giving away little in return. In this respect, firms with reputations for fair play probably make the best allies. The 360-degree view impact of the macro environment. Consider the emergence in 2020 of a global pandemic resulting from the spread of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, which causes COVID-19, which many of you are familiar with. The rising number of infections and deaths around the world due to COVID-19 has not only caused severe economic dislocation worldwide, depressing demand in many nations, but had also disrupted global supply chains and led many to question the value of building a globally dispersed web of productive activities to support a global standardization strategy. In summary, we have taken a look at the concept of international business strategy. We have recognized that firms can increase revenue and profit by expanding globally. We have had the opportunity to understand how pressures for cost reductions and local responsiveness influence strategic choice, identify the different international strategies for competing and their pros and cons, and explain the pros and cons of using strategic alliances to support international strategies.